Hi Internet, it's Emily SW.
Sam.
We are here with another episode of everyone's favorite Podcastle, aka the only Podcastle, because I've never heard anyone else call podcast a Podcastle.
There are a couple.
Are there?
We are not original.
Oh, okay. Well, I've never heard it. Yeah, well, that's fine. Nothing is original.
No.
We are all a culmination of everything that's come before us.
That's right.
So we are discussing a short story today.
Yeah,
We need a little break.
We need a little bit of a break after the heaviness of the last thing we read.
Woof. But speaking of, if you tuned in to part 2 of Nights at the Circus, we had a question at the end of that.
There were a couple questions. One of them we kind of had discussed already because it was related to the themes of the novel. But the other one of them was new.
Yes. And we asked you to leave your comments, and we're going to give you our answer.
And the question was, how do you like your eggs?
Very important question. Now, me personally, I like my eggs scrambled. Because I'm a white person.
I was going to say, it's a very basic, classic.
Here's the other answer to that question, the more specific. There's like a meme of these two guys doing a podcast, and one of them's like, what's your favorite Pop-Tart? And the guy goes, brown sugar or whatever. And he's like, that's so boring. And then the other guys go, oh, really? Well, it was the, 2000 whatever Spider-Man tie-in Pop-Tart. So my Spider-Man tie-in niche Pop-Tart answer to that egg question. My mom used to make me fried egg whites because I didn't like the yolk. So it would just be fried egg whites with salt and pepper. Those are actually my favorite eggs. How do you like your eggs?
Do you ever put things in the scrambled eggs?
Oh, seasoning? Yes, absolutely. Scrambled eggs.
Mm-hmm.
Usually a bit of milk.
Okay.
Cream if you have it, whatever. Doesn't have to be dairy milk. A little bit of milk. Obviously salt, pepper, paprika. That's the secret. Paprika, garlic powder, onion powder.
Mm.
I slept over at my friend's house once when I was a teenager, and we had eggs in the morning. We made ourselves eggs. And I was like, where's your seasoning? And they're like, what do you mean? What do you mean, what do you mean? So we could season the eggs. And they're like, oh, we don't put anything in our eggs. Just plain eggs?
Now, see, you've already redeemed your answer many times over.
By having seasoning?
By having seasoning, by having a very specific, special to you way to cook them.
Okay.
That's acceptable.
I'm glad I redeemed myself.
That's more than acceptable. That's great.
Thank you.
See, I think about scrambled eggs, I think about how my dad made them, and he always put some cheese in it.
Oh, kind of like a little omelet.
Mm-hmm. And then you put some hot sauce on it.
See, I like hot sauce. I don't like hot sauce on my eggs.
I like hot sauce. I'm going to sound like my father. I like hot sauce on a lot of things. You put it on the scrambled eggs. You can put hot sauce on your omelet.
Yeah, I mean, at least it's not ketchup. My wife puts ketchup on her eggs sometimes.
Oh, I've also done that.
I hate ketchup, so I guess my opinion is biased, but...
I probably wouldn't do it now, but that's how we used to eat them when I was a kid. Now I don't even really buy ketchup, because I never eat it on anything. I never have it.
I know. Well, and, unless you're having a party with burgers or something, you're gonna have that ketchup bottle until it's long expired.
Yes. So, if I were going to make eggs, scrambled, I mean, do I have a favorite type of egg dish?
I would also say the question, how do you like your eggs, does not imply egg dish. It implies just you're making eggs in the morning for breakfast. Not because egg dish, obviously like a quiche or something.
Oh, quiches are great.
Yeah. But if we're just talking cooking eggs, to me that's just egg seasoning and the way you cook it, not other ingredients. To me personally, that question.
Okay, I interpreted the question differently. Just how do you like to eat eggs?
Oh, generally?
In general.
Well, in general, my answer would then be French toast.
The best way to eat an egg is hard-boiled, sliced, and put in ramen.
Yes. Or like a soft-boiled egg with the runny yolk in a bowl of ramen.
Yes.
Or tea eggs. Oh. I'm glad we ate before we did this. Because now I'm just thinking about eggs.
They're very versatile.
They are very versatile. And you know what? It's still on theme. Because today's short story is called The Crystal Egg by H.G. Wells.
This one is not edible.
This one's not edible. It's not incredible either.
Well, it is incredible.
That's true.
Not edible.
Not edible.
But it is incredible.
Not sponsored by whatever the egg
I don't
people
even know
on
what it is.
in the commercials when we were kids was.
Yeah, I remember the commercial. I don't remember what the message was.
It must have been some sort of farmer or something.
I was gonna say, was it like the milk ads with the dairy farmers?
Yeah, I think so. Big milk. Big egg.
Big dairy.
But no, we're discussing The Crystal Egg by H.G. Wells, which is a short story. Interesting tidbit about this short story. It was written by H.G. Wells the same year that he was serializing The War of the Worlds. Crystal Egg didn't come out for readers to read until after, but he wrote it the same year that he wrote The War of the Worlds. We're gonna discuss this, but there are some marked similarities in... Oh, spoiler alert. But there are some similarities between The War of the Worlds and The Crystal Egg. The similarities are not, however, excitement.
No, Welsh just had Martians on the mind.
He did it. You know what? In this story, it almost reads like an exercise. Because it's very descriptive. Like, he's literally just describing things. I mean, I guess that's kind of what literature is describing things. But nothing happens.
Yeah. No, it's all description, and the most action there is people looking at things.
Yes. And they look at things, and then he describes them in great detail.
I think he was just trying to figure out what he wanted Mars to be like.
Yeah. That is kind of... It's almost like the kind of thing... Like, if you're writing a big fantasy universe or a sci-fi universe, and you just, even if it doesn't make it in the book, you gotta figure out how the universe works.
Oh. He did not use the Martians in this story in The War of the Worlds, though.
No, like...
They're quite different.
They're quite different. Anyway, it's called the Crystal Egg because the way we view the Martians is through this magic crystal egg. I was going somewhere with that, and then it didn't go anywhere.
Let me just start off with how the story begins.
Yeah. Our story begins... before we get into the actual nitty-gritty of the story, this, similar to War of the Worlds, is like an account. It's like the narrator heard this story from these other people and then is writing it down for us, the reader, which I just find interesting.
That was a common, I want to say trope, but is that a trope?
A thing. I guess it is like a trope.
Because Carmilla was like that too. It was Laura's doctor writing down her account, everything that she told him about the vampire.
Yeah. Lord of the Rings is kind of like that, or like The Hobbit, except that's a direct narrative, though, told by the people who had the adventure.
But see, Lord of the Rings, like, Tolkien's slant to it was that he was translating the text from, the Hobbits, and that Bilbo actually wrote The Hobbit anyway. He wrote the account of The Hobbit, and then Tolkien just translated it for us.
That's a good point. That is a good point. Yeah, his slant makes a little more sense. In this, it's just like some random guy is like, oh, I heard about this from these people.
It's quite immersive. Tolkien immersed himself in his own fantasy.
He did. Well, and this is just going to turn in... I recently, literally today, finished watching The Return of the King, rewatched Lord of the Rings. It's crazy how deep that universe goes. He made up entire languages.
He wrote the story because he made up an entire language.
Absolutely wild. High admiration for Tolkien. Anyways, The Crystal Egg by H.G. Wells starts with a little antiquities shop that's got a bunch of stuff in the window, and the only thing you gotta worry about is a crystal egg.
Yeah, I don't think it even really tells us much about the other stuff at all, because it's totally unimportant.
No, it just lists, like, skulls and curiosities and this, that, and the other thing. And...
This sounds like a neat little shop.
It does. I would love to go inside the shop. Crystal Egg or no.
Does it have a name?
Yes. The name of the shop is Sea Cave, Naturalist and Dealer in Antiquities.
Alright, art project.
There we go. Do a little shadow box.
Oh, yeah. There's an idea.
But so, we open on this, and there's... It's not a priest. They just say he's a clergyman. I always want to say priest, but it very specifically says clergyman. There's a clergyman and another young man. And the thing about opening on this is that these two characters don't really matter. They only matter because they go in and they want to buy the egg. And Mr. Cave, the guy who owns the shop, I don't want to sell this. Why would you keep it in the window?
That was what I had that same thought when I was reading this, because he has it clearly displayed. And they ask him, how much do you want for this? And he gives them a price. And he purposely gives them a high price because he doesn't want to sell it. So he gives them a very high price, thinking they'll say, oh, that's too much, and they don't want to pay for it. Why didn't he just tell them it's not for sale?
Yeah. Or, to begin with, don't put it in the window. Because as you read through the story, you find out that the reason he doesn't want to sell the egg is because he's found you can look through the egg at certain angles in certain ways and see into another place. Another mysterious, strange place. And he's obsessed with it. So why would you put the thing that you're obsessed with and are, like, researching, taking notes on, why would you put that in the window of your shop with all these other things that are for sale? Stupid. He's not very bright, this man. You know, he thinks these buyers are gonna go away. They don't go away. They're like, well, yeah, we'll take it. And he's trying to get them to leave and not take it. And then his wife comes out, and she's like, what? Sell the damn egg. What are you doing? £5? Oh my god, I could get a dress. I could go on this vacation. Like, £5 went a long way in 1897, apparently. Eventually, he's like, well, I've got another buyer. And he was going to come back. So you can't take it. So these two people leave. They leave their information. Well, if nobody buys it, let me know, I want it. And his wife, him and his wife are arguing. And then his wife's children, his stepchildren, appear. And they're all arguing about this. They're like, what the hell, old man? You get the impression that his home life is not overly happy.
He seemed pretty miserable. I don't think we really heard anything good about his family. We have very bad impressions of them. It was like a very stereotypical, like, nagging wife. Mm-hmm. Stepchildren who he doesn't think much of.
Yeah, and they're adult stepchildren. Daughter is 26, and I think the son is like 18 or something like that.
They say the son is kind of good for nothing.
I think he called him a lout, a loose-limbed lout.
Yeah.
The alliteration stood out to me.
Yeah, a loose-limbed lout of 18.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, none of them understand why he won't sell the crystal.
Yeah, and, I mean, to be fair to them, he's not telling them. You know, we go on to learn that because the title of the shop is Sea Cave, Naturalist and Dealer in Antiquities. So he has a background in science. So that interest in this egg is not only giving him a reason to live, but he's also has the scientific background to kind of do it experimentally and take notes and, okay, what are the conditions under which you can see the light inside? Because that's how he discovers he can see a city through it, or another place, is it's shining in the dark, because he has insomnia. And he sees it in the middle of the night, and as he's examining it, he gets a glimpse of that place. And so then he's taking notes, and okay, well, if I hold it at this exact angle, it's like 137 degrees, whatever, then you can see.
Yes, it was very precise.
It was very precise. And so then, because he doesn't want to sell it, and he doesn't want his wife or his scheming stepchildren to sell it out from under him, he takes it to his friend at a university to keep it safe. And then they start researching it together. And that is when we get these long descriptions
of that place,
which we deduce to be Mars because of the stars, the sky, basically. So he
also described red foliage.
Yes, he describes red foliage.
So the red weed. Mm-hmm. So H.G. Wells thought that, at least in his stories, the explanation for Mars being red is that the plants on it are red instead of green.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He deduces, by looking at the sky, he can see some similar constellations as you can from Earth, and 2 moons. And so from that information, he's like, Mars! It must be.
And there were buildings.
Yes, there are buildings. Well. He describes these tall masts, and he can kind of see these other crystals.
You know what I was imagining? The Millennium Palace from Sailor Moon.
Oh, yeah, I can see it.
Remember when it shows it to us and they have those really tall towers, but they're like fountains?
Yeah.
That's what made me think of it, with the towers with the crystals on top of it. So I was picturing, I mean, the moon is not Mars.
No.
But that's what I was envisioning.
That makes sense. I was sort of picturing, because he kept using, like, mastheads as a description. So I was picturing literal ship, like a shipyard, except futuristic.
Well, spaceships.
Yeah.
But ships.
Yeah. But it was purely because he used the word masthead. And so planted the idea of the mast in my brain, and so then it was basically just a kind of surreal oceanfront town. It's like essentially in my head. And the way he described the creatures was quite vivid. I will say, HG, for all this story, nothing happens and it is kind of dull. I did get a very clear picture of what he was talking about, which for the amount of words he spent on it, well should.
This was very not Sailor Moon-like.
The creatures he describes do not quite match the creatures in the War of the Worlds.
Well, they don't match.
They don't match at all.
At all. These ones can fly.
There's, trying to speculate on... Spend a lot of time on wings. It's like, oh, it's like a bird. No, it's like a bat. No, it's like a butterfly. Insect-like, I guess. And then he describes other creatures off in the distance eating other creatures. And they had, like, tentacles.
Tentacle-y?
Yeah.
I guess you could build machines with tentacles.
Well, and, like, on Mars, like, gravity works differently, right? So, like, maybe that helps. I don't know.
Yeah, there's less gravity.
Yeah.
You ever see posts that are like, if humans disappeared, octopi would become the next, dominant species?
I believe it. Octopi are intelligent. Octopi and crows.
And they have tentacles.
They do. Yeah, they can they can escape things, they can solve puzzles.
Maybe H.G. Wells was picturing octopi when he was thinking about his Martians.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. Ocean creatures, people say space is the last frontier. Nuh-uh. Ocean. Deep ocean. Deep ocean. We don't know what's down there. We keep getting a little further and a little further and a little further, but, I mean, I love the ocean, so I'm biased.
I was gonna say, we're gonna get into the ocean, that's when we start stepping into Lovecraft territory.
It's true. We will read Lovecraft at some point. He is on our list, along with a bunch of other people.
There is so much to read.
Yes, there is.
Especially because we're kind of getting into a little bit more modern stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
So
we've expanded.
We're expanding. We've talked about some of the most classic Gothics. There's still more. There's still more novels by Anne Radcliffe.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't touched some of the really famous ones that, like, we read previously. Like The Monk. And stuff like that.
Yeah, Dracula.
Yeah,
we did a whole vampire video.
We talked about Dracula.
But yeah, we haven't done Podcastle about it, yeah.
But then if you start crossing into horror...
Opens up even more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could do this forever and probably never talk about everything.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of the beauty of it, I guess.
Yeah. Anyway, we got a little off topic.
We did. That's alright.
The Martians are flying.
Yes, Martians are flying, and he does describe sometimes that they have these big eyes... And he feels like they're looking back sometimes.
Yeah, because they're flying around the crystals.
Yes, so clearly they're kind of monitoring. I think what we're supposed to think is that they left the crystal on purpose, so they could take a look.
I was picturing was that there were two crystals. So there was a crystal on Earth, and then the crystal still in the tower, and they were just linked.
Okay, yeah.
So when he was looking...
Like a walkie-talkie.
He was looking through the perspective of that crystal still on Mars.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So then they would just have to take the second crystal and leave it wherever they wanted to watch things from.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense, too. I was just viewing it as like if you leave a security camera somewhere... Yeah? How do you like your eggs? Oh my goodness. Is that so? You're so talkative. Are you gonna sit with us while we have our discussion? But I was kind of picturing it almost like a security camera. So, like, they're... The one on Mars is the way they look at the footage from Earth, except it's live. That was kind of what I was picturing.
Now, this leads to more questions.
Mm-hmm.
How did the crystal get to Earth?
It's true. Yeah, and those are questions that don't get answered. I mean, it is a short story. You don't go into a short story expecting every single answer. But this one in particular, I think there are a lot of gaps. First of all, how did it get there? How did the egg get to Earth? Did it fall from the sky like an asteroid? Did a Martian undercover put it there? I doubt it.
That'd be really funny, though.
That would be
That'd
really
be
funny.
some Men in Black kind of stuff.
That'd be like 3 children in a trench coat kind of stuff. 2, Why did he put it in the window when he was so obsessed with it and taking notes and making scientific inquiries and whatever? That's basically the whole story.
Well, there is some more, because the egg gets sold.
Yes, the egg does get sold. So what happens is, eventually, Mr. Cave starts bringing it back and forth from his naturalist friend to his own home to conduct research. During a very busy time, his naturalist friend who works at the college is like, I have exams, I can't see you for a while. He doesn't see Mr. Cave for like a week or 2 weeks or whatever it is. And then he hasn't heard from him for a while, so he goes around to the shop and finds Mrs. Cave in cheap morning gown. He describes it as like cheap but suitable. So Mr. Cave...
Poor Mr. Cave.
...was found dead by Mrs. Cave, holding the egg with a smile on his face.
What did he see?
It does kind of describe his health as being a little poor, like he had insomnia, and he was kind of depressed, but then having this egg and this research project and this cool discovery kind of brought him back to life a little bit. So what could he see through that would make him so happy that he would die?
So happy, he was like, my life here is done. What if his soul got sucked through the egg and sent to Mars?
That would be cool. That's kind of like heaven. It's up.
Depending on where it is in relation to the Earth.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, I guess. It's in the sky.
Or did he see something so amazing?
Maybe, or, you know, it was like something Monty Python's The Funniest Joke in the World, where everyone who hears it dies of laughing because it's so funny. Maybe he saw something so amazing, he just... Either way, he died.
He checked out.
But
with a smile, so it wasn't tragic.
You know, at least he wasn't miserable anymore. So it's
true.
a happy ending for him. And he's not married to his wife anymore and dealing with his loose-limbed lout of a stepson. Then, of course, this happened days and days ago, so by the time the naturalist friend... I keep calling him a naturalist, he's a professor. The professor friend of Mr. Cave comes to check on him. The wife has already sold the egg. It got sold in a lot of a bunch of other stuff. And the professor goes to this shop, and it's already been sold from that shop to somebody else, to a gentleman. It's like a tall gentleman in a gray suit.
Very mysterious.
Also very Men in Black.
Yeah, that's true too.
And that's it. He tracks down the clergyman and the person who wanted to buy it from the window, who turned out was a prince who just thought it was interesting and had the money.
And that's why money was no object to them.
Mm-hmm. And then when Mr. Cave didn't want to sell it, he was like, well, now I really want it.
Yeah. I imagine did it describe the size to us at all?
No, it's just like, you can hold it, let's see. Let's see. A mass of crystal worked into the shape of an egg and brilliantly polished. He describes it as holding it in like two hands. When he's found dead, it's held in both of his hands.
So it's sizable.
Yeah, this might have been because in the first paragraph when it's describing things in the window, it mentions an ostrich egg, so in my head it's about the size of an ostrich egg.
That's about what I was picturing.
I suppose not everyone has that frame of reference, but like cantaloupe sized. Kind of like a crystal ball, but egg.
Yeah, that's basically what it was.
Yeah.
Except instead of seeing the future, he was seeing other planets.
Other places. Much different than the egg in Nights at the Circus, or eggs, plural.
Yeah, those were, I don't want to say they were more literal, but they were more literally an egg.
Yes.
As in a thing that new life comes from. Whereas this was just egg-shaped.
Yeah, it actually had nothing to do with eggs in the life sense. So that was The Crystal Egg by H.G. Wells. It was, I will say, for all its kind of dullness and nothing happening, it was a nice break after Nights at the Circus and the dark themes.
Yeah, this does just seem to me like something that H.G. Wells, he had an idea in his head and he just wanted to write it down. And especially if he was working on War of the Worlds at the same time. He was definitely thinking about Martians.
Oh, a whole heck of a lot, yeah. And then he's H.G. Wells, so it got published.
So then he had an alternative Martian idea and just wanted to write it down. Maybe he was trying to see if he could work it in anywhere, but it took it completely different.
And despite the fact that Mr. Cave dies, this story in general, the tone is much less doom and gloom than the War of the Worlds. I mean, I guess the War of the Worlds is literally supposed to be the end of the world, but...
Yes.
War of the Worlds is definitely a lot more Well, go watch that. We did that.
Yeah.
Go watch that episode.
Or listen to it on your...
Right. That's right. It's a podcast. It's not...
platform of choice.
Yes. Go listen to the War of the Worlds episode. That's one of my favorite episodes that we've ever done.
Is it?
Yeah. I think we nailed that one.
It's the longest one we've ever done.
It is. But I think it turned out pretty good, personally. But yes, that was a nice quick one.
Yes. Next time we'll be coming back at you with another novel.
Yeah, we're kind of settling on a sort of every other... We're staggering our long form with some short form, so
yeah, there's a little bit of a pattern going.
Yeah, so we're gonna try and keep that up. Ooh, we should come up with a question.
Something related to... Well, we've already had the egg question.
We already had the egg question. If you were walking past an antique shop, what would be the thing in the window that you would be like, oh my god, I have to have that? What is the thing in the antique shop window that would draw you in? Just pure curiosity. So, what intrigues you? What sort of curiosities are you into? Egg theme? Ended. No more eggs. Unless something surprises us somewhere else down the line.
You know how you can tell a difference between sci-fi and gothic? No Shakespeare references.
Yeah, so, this next book is just directly quoting Shakespeare. Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's it.
Yep, okay.
Alright, catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye!